All right, so with our lovely Miss Jojo, ready, Jojo? We're gonna warm up a little bit with some find its and some recalls. Ready, cutie? So ready, Jojo, find it. So she was doing a really nice job. Obviously, you saw the tether system that we did a little bit earlier with her and her brother. So remember that when practicing with your gorgeous gal, since she is a older lady, so she's 7, I believe, going on 8 soon. So ready, Jojo? She's like, I would rather be a naked woman. Well, maybe we'll take a little breather and you can take your harness off again. Ready? So if at times she prefers to be a naked woman, I do sometimes have her practice with both. So I know when your babes are not as comfortable sometimes wearing certain pieces of equipment, you may, like I mentioned earlier for Bernie, is to rotate through your gear. So not all the time is she be rocking her harness if, let's say, it's just you guys practicing and her brother might be away for a nap or whatever. Oh my goodness, you ready? So, but getting her cozy with a little bit of both could be really beneficial. If too, she's just a little bit more of an itchy woman come the cooler weather. Excuse me, I know for like with us too, like because the heat is on and it's dry outside, our hands become a little bit more uncomfortable. Same thing with some of the dogs is with the forced hot air coming out of our heating. We may have moments where our dogs actually become a little bit more dry as well. So we may find potentially adding like a omega fatty acid type supplement, or doing even sometimes certain dog shampoos that are for itchy skin. I normally recommend to stay away from like oatmeal type baths, even though I know that sometimes they're geared toward dogs. I feel it can be better to get more of a shampoo that's designed for like itchy skin, that's more medicated at times. But you can, again, simple, easy bath sort of routine can be helpful too. But we don't want to overbathe. So some puppies that are very itchy are dealing with allergies, be it external or internal through food. She also did just do the same thing like her brother does, where she plows herself through the snow. Hi, cutie. So there could be moments where for our little lady, she just enjoys itching places she can't scratch by using the environment or using items in the environment too. Oh my goodness, this little munchkin. 2, as we've mentioned in the past, itching can also be a displacement behavior. So what I mean by that is if your babe is a little bit nervous or overwhelmed, they may do behaviors that come natural to them to make them feel better. So with Miss J, I know she's working a little bit of a pant right now. Everybody's really interested. I have a little piece of cheese that someone stepped on a while ago, and they keep stopping to check to see if it's a snack on the floor, but it's just a little smudge on the mat. Ready? Jojo. Nice name recognition, madam. Good job. So obviously being a brachycephalic puppy, she will at times be panting heavier at times because her nasal passage is much smaller. So sometimes if she's a little stressed out or she did a little bit of movement, she gets winded quicker than other dogs. So we just have to make sure, even in the cooler weather, that we're still going at her rate. And two, we might find with cooler weather for some of the more mature dogs, when they're not feeling so great, their joints might become more uncomfortable when their cooler weather is out and about. So Jojo, here. Oh, such a good girl. She's like, that was really hard, but thank you. So, but when practicing with our gorgeous gal, we may just have to see how she's feeling both mentally and physically when practicing with her. So now she's going for a little drink of water. So I'm going to see if I can do a little bit of play with her. I know she gets winded kind of quickly, so I don't want to do it for too long, but I want to see if we can do a little bit with that on-off switch, a bit with the playtime. Ready? Jojo, here. Oh, good girl. Such a smart lady. She's like, hold up, I got distracted. Oh, maybe you see the flirt pole, perhaps. Ready? She's like, nope, I'm distracted. 2, come the end of the day, like I've mentioned, they do start to get a little bit more fatigued. Even though they're not always out playing and they do get rest periods, I do find since it's a novel environment, it's not their typical home front, there's gonna be moments where that even still tires them out compared to like doing skills the whole time. Ready, Jojo? Ready? We'll do a little find it. She's like, this is exhausting. Can you find it? She's like, no, I'm too tired. Here we go. We'll take one right to the face. How's that? Oh, it fell right out. Not a friend? Not the one you like? How about that one? That one's better. No, the hearts are not your favorites right now. That's okay. So we'll see if we can do a little bit with play instead. If your babes, again, are not taking food, they're either one, not feeling as comfortable. I know Miss J is a little bit more of a sensitive woman, which is fine. So there could be more times than not where she's a little bit unsure. And this is where even just coming and working easy skills and feeling safe is still a good starting point. So I'm going to see if I can do a little bit of play with her. Ready? Jojo. Ready? What's this bad boy? She's like, oh my goodness. So if she's more of a toy gal, which I think we've already come to the conclusion she is, I do like to sometimes use toys to motivate certain skills. This doesn't mean that everything she does in her life has to be earned or worked for. You can also just play for the fun of play. So we might do a little bit of loose leash walking with my flirt pole as my target. Ready? She's like, this is so much harder than I was hoping. So we're just going to do a few little laps right here. Good. And the toy can come alive. She's like, and I've caught you. Good catch. She's a wild woman. So you take that bad boy down. So when it comes to grabbing, she's like, I will pluck him until there is no hair. So with some of the babes, obviously this is very normal doggy behavior to do the chasing and grabbing and biting and tugging. Some puppies even like to do like the plucking, which is where when they catch the critter, they'd be taking the hair off. So I know it sounds a little flustering from our end, but very normal. So we might go, ready? Oh my goodness, go get that bad boy. So if, let's say, the puppy gets really jazzed when playing, like a little lady goes from like 0 to 100, which is fine. But sometimes that's where she also has struggles with seeing something or getting frustrated, and then also goes from 0 to 100. So being a bulldog, of course, they tend to be a little tenacious, but we want to make sure that whatever we're practicing is going to help her in other venues. Oh my goodness, we got to chew our schnackies. And then she's like, I got some of the hair. So if, for example, she gets really excited as movement happens, we might go from there. Ready? We'll do a little find it. So giving her little moments to take a break and rotate can be very helpful, which we've been trying to work on. She's like, this guy doesn't need any more hair, she says. So the other option too, so I know she's kind of going to town with that one. I'm just going to grab my second one. She's like, lady, he doesn't need all his hair. So sorry I'm out of camera range for just a second. Just going to grab the second one. So the benefit of sometimes having two toys, ready? Jojo, is we can go from one wiggling to another. So if, let's say, she is interested in the wiggles, she's like, no, but the flirt pole over there is much cuter. Nice. So notice how she still goes back to her favorite. So don't worry if sometimes there's certain things that have more value than another. You may find that as you redirect from one to the other, you can sometimes then build value in both. She's like, this guy is the best. So we'll see. Ready? We'll get it up. Whoosh. She's like, I've almost caught him. So I'm just going to give a little moment. Sorry, I'm going to plop that one down. So if your lady gets way too excited about the sheepskin, nothing bad. So very typical. I'm a wild woman. But notice how the fluffy one was more intriguing. So if you're finding she has a hard time going between certain value of items, you'll see that I didn't, panic or freak out like, oh gosh, she's plucking. A lot of the babes, when they get really excited, they tend to go into like biting and shredding, which I know sounds really graphic. But remember that for a puppy, it's going to be a very natural response to when you catch the critter, this is what you do with the end result. So if, let's say, the sheepy skin friend is a little bit too intriguing, you may practice with two of the lower end reinforcement type items for toys and then go from there. And now she's winded, so there's only so much she can do. So, but if, let's say, for example, she's doing a great job with certain toys, rotate through those. So I see that with her, the sheepskin becomes really intriguing. You see how she likes to pluck it. We may find for her that is too high of a valued item where she doesn't quite have the what to do instead when we get too jazzed. So this is where sometimes you're also testing the waters, see where your babe's green, yellow, and red sort of environments, behaviors, and skill sets, but also reinforcements will vary. So obviously with our gorgeous gal, ready? Jojo's like, are you gonna go get a drink of water? She's like, I gotta make sure there's no more hairy, fluffy creature to catch. So we may find for her, for a flirt pole, her favorite could actually be what's called suede, which is again similar. This is the sheepskin though. The sheepskin has the fuzz on it. The suede is again just the hide of the animal, but doesn't have any of the fluff. So for some of the babes, that's a better venue than going with, for example, the really fluffy one, if that becomes too challenging for her to take a break from. So she's just grabbing a little drink. I'll just tidy up for one little moment. She doesn't thankfully like eat the fluff. Some of them, when they get really jazzed, they try to also consume the critter. So if you find she's one of those pupperoos that ends up biting and breaking toys and then trying to ingest it, I would definitely recommend to use plushy toys as instead an engagement item to play together, but not as something that she goes and plays with and tries to open and then potentially consume. How cutie, ready? Jojo. Great check-in, ma'am. Good job. She's like, okay, that one's a good one. That's a good snack. So, but when practicing, if you know that she's very toy driven, I know she loves her little ball that she plays with at home. You could, again, rotate through those balls and make sure that as she's bringing one, you show her the next one and toss that one. So you're practicing that taking and relinquishing of an item. But then you're also working that on-off switch. So because for a lot of the dogs, she's hanging out with me, but for a lot of the dogs, you're going to have moments where over arousal can be a very easy place to go into a big response, sometimes even aggression. So not saying that every dog that gets jazzed instantly goes into biting, but there are plenty of times where because of frustration or trigger stacking or a resource, and now we've made it very exciting, that can be the perfect storm for a hiccup. So when dealing with her and her siblings, we may find that as she gets way too excited, that might not be the greatest time to have everybody practice at the same moment. So ready? Jojo, here. Oh my goodness. Oh, is that one delicious? Maybe not. Ready? Good job. Don't worry, your brother would love to pick them all up afterwards. So, and she's maybe getting to the point where she's also just pooped out now. So, but for homework's sake, for all the beauties, make sure that whatever you're working on, you're starting off by one little point where the babe is attainable for the skill set, the comfort range, and you're seeing like the aha moments. If you're finding that very little is being retained or that they're having a hard time repeating the same sort of response, it could be the environment is typically too strenuous for them to do well. If we're dealing with different scenarios like Miss J, she's also an older girl. So sometimes we're dealing with now, not again where she can't be functional, but there's moments where depending on your developmental stages, you have more or less capabilities at times. So a lot of times as dogs hit sort of their senior years, their hearing or their eyesight or certain things start to not be as resilient. And because of that, you might get behavior change. So this is where whenever we're dealing with a dog that's struggling, we want to rule out a medical reason behind behavior and go from there too. Ready? Jojo, here. What a good girl. She's like, oh, I see your friend up there on the shelf. Oh, he does live up there. Good job, cutie. So if she's a little bit stuck, I might sort of see if I can get her to do a little, nice, you said that's too much, she says. I'm so full. So, but for the gorgeous gal, she really is doing a stellar job. She's getting much more comfortable noticing the classmates from afar and building up her rapport there. I would recommend, if possible, I'm not saying that you must, but you guys may find it beneficial to go a little further in the reactive dog programs too, where she's then dealing with more of the distractions out and about and building up that really nice foundation. Because she had been doing a really great job, and now come springtime sooner than later, we want to make sure she's still able to refine some of those skills before the real world becomes very exciting once again with the nicer weather down the road. But we'll give her a little breather. She's just often exploring the environment and just checking it out. But she did a very nice job. You gonna come visit? Oh my goodness, look at you, cutie patootie. Ready? Jojo. She's like, oh, so tired. Do you want to try one last little crumb? Oh, they're so nice. She's like, I'm all set. Oh my goodness, we just can't find all the tidbits. So if she's not as interested in food, we'll just give her a little rest. What a smart girl, but she did a stellar job as well.